What does it mean to truly appreciate your customers? For some businesses, they'll send you a pre-printed card in the mail, or maybe they'll attach it to the end of their email that says, "Oh, and thank you for doing business with us." But for other businesses, they truly go the extra mile in making sure their customers aren't just appreciated, but treated like family. Hey, my name's Blake Benz. I'm the host of the Good Advice Podcast, and you've come to the right place to learn how to do business better. We talk about the stuff that actually works in business on today's show. And today we have Noah Paden, who's with Schuber Mitchell Homes. Now, I was a bit stunned to hear about this home builder and some of the things that they've been doing for their customers, not just to make sure that they have a great home they can live in, but also just the things they're doing to appreciate their customers and, again, treat their customers like family. Before we dive into today's episode, we have a quick business that sponsored today's show. Check out this quick ad and enjoy the show. There's one single piece of advice that I give to business owners who are ready to scale their business drastically. And that's knowing exactly what you need to hand off so that you can continue focusing on what you're an expert in. It amazes me when I talk to business owners who are doing their own bookkeeping and tax prep, and worse, that they're going through all of this paperwork at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, even midnight, slaving away trying to make sense of all of the numbers for their business. Business owners who are making it happen have already figured out that you can't do it all yourself. That's why I recommend Steve Lay with Equity Business Solutions. Not only is he an expert in bookkeeping and tax prep, but what I love about Steve is that he'll sit down with you and help you make sense of the value of your business beyond just reading a spreadsheet. You'll be able to make better decisions, and more importantly, you're going to save yourself the crucial time you would have spent going through QuickBooks or an Excel spreadsheet or whatever it is that keeps us up late at night. So save yourself some time and some money by giving Steve Lay a call at Equity Business Solutions, and he'll show you the value beyond your numbers. Go to equitybusinesssolutionsllc.com to find out more. Noah, great to have on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You know, we joked about this being a cursed, cursed get. So Noah, God bless you. We were set to get together I guess about a month ago.
Something like that, yeah.
And we got together and I left one of my cables at home. Well,
Yeah.
actually, I'm not going to blame anyone.
No.
I'm going to take accountability. But I may have had a 2-year-old person in my home who emptied my supplies before the meeting.
Right. And I told you in that moment, you know, your children are just aspiring podcasters as well. So they're really looking up to you and getting an early start at this. So
Yes.
I can
Yes.
appreciate that.
Well, Noah, people have heard the introduction for the show. Tell me a little bit, for the people listening, you know, what's your version of who you are, what you do?
Yeah. So again, my name's Noah Paden. I am a sales specialist at Schuber Mitchell Homes, which is a home builder here in Northwest Arkansas, but more specifically, we're in Joplin, Tulsa, Springfield, and Northwest Arkansas as well. I'm a believer of the Lord myself, family-oriented, and really my whole purpose and passion in life is just to serve people in whatever way I can.
So what's the specifics of your job? Are you business development, or what exactly are you doing?
Truly sales.
Yeah.
So you can think of it as like a real estate agent in a way, although I am not a licensed realtor. I strictly sell new construction for Schuber Mitchell, which means, you know, if you come to me with a used home of any kind or anything like that, it's kind of not my forte, although I have plenty of connections that I can guide you to. But really, my job is to bring in families, agents alike, sit down with them and kind of hear their story and just see, you know, where their walk of life is at and how I can help guide them in the right direction to finding their next home.
What do you like about it?
Man, it is, again, I said my purpose is serving people, and it just fills my cup to really help families find that next place, that place that they can love coming home to. You know, the spark of joy for first-time home buyers whenever they finally get the keys and they get to go to their front door and take the Instagram picture with the caption, you know, we've done a thing.
Yeah.
You know, one good example is I remember sitting down with the family, reading through the contract work, which, you know, that's the most fun thing on the planet, right?
Yeah,
The contract. And the mother who is part of the purchasing deal, started tearing up. And without even thinking about it, I went, I know this is a lot. It can get rather intense sometimes. And she goes, no, we've been waiting for 6 years for this moment to happen. She looks at me and goes, we moved from California with the sole purpose to buy a home. Arkansas was one of the only places we could make it happen with our price range, with the things we want. And we're making it happen. It's finally happening. And it shook me to the core. I was like, this is why I do this. I was like, to be just a mere factor in that walk of their life, that's what really filled my cup. And that's what makes it so exciting for me.
It's interesting in the business world, you get so used to, the transaction side that you sometimes forget the human side of what you do. I know when I first invited you on the show, we had a conversation we were at Allegiance Title. I think they were doing like maybe a Christmas party or a birthday party. I don't know what it was. A birthday for their business, not. We had our kid's birthday at Allegiance Title. But I met you, and it struck me how this was such a core part of your story of why you liked Schuber Mitchell was this very much this human side of it.
Yes.
Like this personal side.
Yeah. My whole purpose, and actually it's part of my training, so part of my company actually trains me to focus on this, but it's not the transactional side. In fact, I almost want to avoid that, although it is a crucial part of business, mind you. But we are all people working together. And so understanding that human side, I think, is so crucial when you're working on a deal with somebody, because there's more than just a dollar sign that's happening, especially whenever you're selling homes or for the families coming in the door. It's more than just the home itself. It is a cornerstone of their life. And so I am trained to kind of just have a conversation with them, kind of like what we're doing here right now, is just have that kind of conversation and help me understand where life's taking you and where I can help guide you. The price of the home can wait. The square footage, I'll figure that out. But I want you to tell me your story. I want to befriend you.
Yeah.
Right? Because then that just makes the home so much more special, and it makes the deal so much more special because you realize, oh, this guy wearing the Schuber Mitchell logo on his chest is not just some sales guy who doesn't care. You know?
Well, and for a lot of us, buying or selling a home is one of the largest, if not the largest transaction you will make in your entire life. And for many of us, we'll only do it a couple of times.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So to have someone who sees it beyond just a transaction and also appreciates the nervousness of it, especially because, when you're selling or you're buying or selling a home, you get a lot of outside opinions from like people who are like either worried on your behalf or panicked on your behalf. I remember we were selling our last home, and the boxes were packed, and we had some friends over for dinner, and one of the friends she goes, hey, can I tell you something? And I was like, okay, yeah, which is kind of weird when someone asks, can I tell you something?
Right. You're like, uh-oh, what's about to happen?
Yeah, what's going to happen here? And she's like, but if I tell you, you gotta promise to hear me out.
Now you're really clenching your fist.
I think I maybe get this question once. Like I can count on one hand how many times this question's been asked. But she's like, you got to hear me out. And I'm like, where is this going? And she's like, don't sell your house. Don't do it. It's not a good idea. Now, boxes are packed.
Right.
I'm like, hey, this would have been a conversation to be had maybe a few months ago, but contract signed. Like this is done. But point being, as someone buying a house, especially younger people, I think there's so much ambiguity and apprehension around the housing market, and is this the right decision? For people who maybe don't have a lot of debt, and then they realize like, oh, I'm going to have
taking on $400,000 worth of debt here. Okay.
Yeah. So having that human element, I have a friend of mine who wrote a book called People Buy From People, and the whole premise of it is exactly what we're talking about. That it's really not about the dollar amount, although that's a part of it.
Sure.
It's having that personal human side to it.
Right. Yep. And I absolutely agree with you. And one really cool thing that the company I work for does is we have a team that's dedicated to experience, and not experience in the way that's like, I know it all, which that is having somebody who is intelligent and has been around the block a time or two is always great to have in your corner. But their focus is making sure that we ensure the buyer's experience is just well catered to from the moment that they walk into the door to the moment that they're unlocking their home for the first time to move those boxes in the door. So literally what they do is throughout the entire construction process, they are the main point of contact for any questions, comments, concerns that the buyers have. And one really cool thing that I love is they are providing the buyers weekly update videos on the progress of their home. Transparency is a huge factor in our core beliefs. And so we want the home buyers to see everything that's going on in their home, right? Because as you said, this is one of the biggest purchases they can ever make in their life. So we want to make sure that they are catered to throughout the whole process.
This is a bit of a rarity. I can't think of very many businesses I've spoken to that they have a dedicated team for the customer experience.
Yeah. And I will say this, it is arguably one of the toughest jobs that Schuber Mitchell has to offer, because you're dealing with people in probably the most stressful moments of their life.
Yeah.
Especially with new construction. With used homes, you see the finished product and everything like that. But with new construction, you're seeing the nuts and the bolts that go into the home that you're going to be living in, which can be really daunting at sometimes. Yeah. So it's really nice to have that person in your corner to say, hey, here's exactly what we're doing for you. Here's what you can expect. What do you think? What are your thoughts? And they open up the floor for them and say, hey, let's have that conversation. What's going on in your head?
I like this too, because so many businesses are so transactionally focused. And I think it'd be very easy for you guys to be like, well, I mean, we got their money. I mean, they signed the contract.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to do this.
No.
And so I think it's always telling about a business when they'll put dollars. I mean, because you have people on staff who are being paid to do this.
Yeah.
But when they'll put dollars to something that doesn't have an immediate ROI. Now, big picture, it obviously does.
Right.
But I mean, you're not going to, the customer's not getting, they didn't sign up for a plan. They're not getting charged extra to get like these updates. This is a bit of a rarity, like I said.
Yeah, no, it's a really cool thing. And I think at the end of the day, you're right. It doesn't necessarily go to the ROI or anything like that. But what it does is it leaves that lasting impact on families like, oh my goodness, they really cared about me. And then they go to their friends and they say, yeah, if you're looking for a home, those guys at Schuber Mitchell, like they just took you in like you were family, which is crazy. Normally with business transactions, you're like, okay, finally the deal's closed. Let's move on with our lives. But I've had multiple families in the past that have regularly come back to the office just to say hi. We have a whole pantry full of snacks and drinks and everything like that. I mean, it's kind of like walking into grandma's house almost. You're like, are you hungry? Here, what do you want? Take what you want. But they come back just because of how well we delivered that experience to them. And they just want to hang out. They just want to say hi, see how things are going.
I think about how different this is from the norm. The norm that I think a lot of us who are listening are familiar with is you sit down with the salesperson, they have all these promises, and then once the contract's signed, you can't get a hold of anybody. It's like it's the ultimate magic trick of where are these people? Like you can't get a hold of your sales rep, or when you finally do get a hold of that person, they say, oh, well, that's not really my job. You really want to talk to so-and-so in the business.
Sure.
Can't get a hold of that person. And you're kind of just like, man, what happened to all of those? You realize that those promises were just really good marketing.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the fact that it's actually authentic and genuine on y'all's behalf is something really impressive.
Yeah. Like another example I had that just happened about 2 days ago. I had a family that I worked with and they were buying their first-time home buyers. The wife was pregnant. And so she mentioned while we were going through all the contract work that she was due in February of 2025. And so I reached out right at the end of January, just out of pure curiosity. This was not business related or anything like that. It was just, I was genuinely interested in their life. And so I reached out and said, hey, have they arrived yet? Has the baby arrived? And they go, no, not yet. Give it a couple weeks. Which is kind of weird to have a salesperson randomly reach out to you about your newborn child, right?
Yeah.
And then
the funny thing about these conversations though is when you're like, okay, and they're like, did you need something else?
Right.
Like I think it's funny when the person's like, wait, okay, that was it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not selling me something.
No. And then about 2 days ago, they texted me picture of a newborn child in the crib and they said they're here. And it was just all exclamation points, congratulations. Like I was just genuinely happy for them. I mean, of course, they bought a house with me, but I mean, their life is just moving in such a good, positive direction. And they found the house, they're having a kid. I mean, their life is just going so well for them right now. And I got to be a part of that, which is super cool.
So let me ask you something, because like I said, this isn't the norm. A lot of businesses don't dedicate capacity towards the buying experience, the customer journey, which is the language that I often find myself using, is the customer journey from the moment they sign the contract till, the deal's done or what have you.
Sure.
The work is done, excuse me.
Yeah.
Why? Why is this important to you guys?
That is such a good question. And I think it all starts internally within the company. Because there is such an emphasis on how leadership treats their employees, how transparent they are, and how one of our core values is unity, how we do everything better as a team. We're open to collaboration. We want to hear each other's stories. So I really do think it starts internally, because whenever you're in the workplace as an employee, if you're sitting there and you're receiving constant love and care and the willingness to serve from your leadership, that's infectious. And so as an employee, I see that treatment from my bosses on a daily basis, and I go, I like that feeling. I want to spread that feeling to others. And so that's why our focus is around treating people like people, not a dollar sign. It's all internal. Yeah.
Well, it's funny too, because I think about businesses that really struggle with this concept of culture, of company culture, and they have a really hard time understanding the ROI of it. And honestly, sometimes the conversation I've had with more cynical bosses is, well, that person might just leave, they might just move on. Like, why would I invest in them? Or even out of them not being cynical from like just a pure dollars and cents point of view is, well, I know like on average someone works here for 28 months, so I really shouldn't spend more than this many dollars over that time. And so that's where you see like, every 6 months we have a pizza party, or, it's you get the gift card for thanks for your hard work, and it's a $5 gift card.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can't even, like, I literally, it reminds me, I worked at a place one time, and someone to show me appreciation gave me a Sonic gift card. And which is interesting. I don't typically think Sonic, which I think it gets Sonic.
The drinks are okay.
I hear they're making a comeback, by the way.
Yeah.
But what was the kicker about this is it was a used gift card. They said, hey, by the way, there's only like $3 and like 80 something, but hey, I really do appreciate you.
Oh my goodness.
On one hand,
that's worse than the pizza party, man. That's like pizza party, but all the slices are a bite taken out of them.
Well, and the full, this wasn't from a boss. This was actually from a customer trying to show appreciation.
Oh,
so
okay, fair enough.
The concept behind it was genuine and appreciated.
Yeah.
In the sense of, here's someone who just like was just trying to show appreciation and probably looked through her purse and was like, I have this.
Yeah.
It's just, but when you start looking at like all the facts of it, you're like, maybe, I don't know.
Right.
But point being, I do think that a lot of times appreciation is shown out of whatever's left, like whatever we have excess of or whatever we have on hand.
Yeah.
Rather than, I think about, I have, without trying to get in trouble, I have certain relatives where, if we're going to like a birthday party, like the drawers in the kitchen get opened up. Like, what do we have that we can, what's stuffed in here that we can give to that person? So I always appreciate it when a business is intentional about this and they're willing to put dollars towards it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, another side of that, because I talked about how it starts internally and the care for the employees becomes infectious, right? The other side of it is we do have a whole ministry team. So Schuber Mitchell as a company is a kingdom company, which for some people you're like, what's that? In layman's terms, we are a Christian company. But we use the term kingdom company because we want to honor God in all walks of life, not just in the home buying process, in everything. And part of that is we have a ministry team whose entire job is dedicated to reaching out to other ministry partners and serving them. And the way that we fund that is with 1% of all home sales we use to our ministry team so that they can go out and help others. And we have monthly ministry meetings on top of that where we invite in all the staff to see. We welcome in one of our ministry partners. They talk to us for 30 minutes to an hour, just kind of talking about what they're doing, why they serve, all
These
that.
like churches or like nonprofits?
Churches, nonprofits.
Yeah,
It's a collection of different ones.
That's cool.
With the whole idea of, hey, we want to serve. We're using part of our income to serve those families. And so we want to hear from the entire staff. Should we serve these people? How should we serve them? What's the dollar amount that you would like to serve them by? And it's such a cool concept in the business realm, because typically you don't see that. But it allows us to further extend our outreach to those in need. One cool story that I have. So my director of sales training, his wife works as a middle school teacher. And there was one day where sadly one of her students took his own life.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Really heartbreaking stuff. And so she presented this to my director of sales training, her husband. And so he took that to our ministry team and said, hey, here's what happened. How can we serve? So the ministry team reached out to the school counselor at that middle school and said, hey, can we get in touch with the family? And they go, sure. So she tried to reach out to the family, was calling, couldn't get through to the family. Well, it turns out the family was actively at a funeral home trying to figure out how on earth they could pay for this funeral. So finally the counselor connects with the family and says, hey, there's this company, Schuber Mitchell, that wants to support you. They want to write a check for the full amount for this funeral. And the couple was just taken aback.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
This company who they had never heard of was wanting to help them in one of the hardest moments in their life. This family didn't buy a Schuber Mitchell home, nothing. It was literally just a connection from their son's middle school. And so, the family, the family,
the story, man.
it's so cool in such a heavy topic.
And this is, me so immersed in the marketing world, the cynical side of me is I just appreciate that this wasn't like a publicity stunt.
Right.
You know, that a lot of times, because I was, before you came on, I Googled Schuber Mitchell and was just curious about kind of work you guys do. I didn't see any headline about this. So clearly it wasn't, it was, I think sometimes this is the other thing. And I think those of you who are cynical with me, we see, there's a popular, this is going to totally ruin the mood, by the way.
No.
There's a popular trend on social media right now. It's a joke, but it's where, someone's sweeping outside of a store. You may have seen this. Someone's like sweeping outside of the store and the owner walks by and says, oh, hey, thanks for sweeping. Do you want to come in and get like a free drink or whatever? And like bottled water or something. Person comes in and, and is being like filmed. And then later the person who's back on the street, like sweeping the street or doing whatever, a friend walks up and says, dude, you're viral. And he's like, what? And it's the company's social media being like, I noticed this homeless person. I invited them in for a drink.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it is, and it's a lot like I hate this, the popular influencers who go around like giving money.
Look at me giving money to this homeless guy. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's just for views, right? So I also appreciate that not only did y'all do the right thing, it's the, what's the Bible verse? The right hand never knows what the left hand is doing.
Yes.
You're doing things because it's the right thing to do, not because you're trying to make a big show of it. Which I think it speaks to the integrity of why you guys do what you do.
Another one of our core values there. And I mean, you hit it on the head just now, because my closing comment on that story was going to be the family reached out to us and said, hey, how can we thank you? And our leadership team was like, that's it. Just a kind thank you.
Yeah.
We don't need anything else.
No, leave a 5-star review. Yeah.
No, Go to our Google reviews page. Yeah. Like, comment, subscribe. Yeah.
Which, it's so funny, man, hearing you talk about this. Like, those of us who are in business, have been in business for a long time, we're so wrote into those habits of asking for things like that. And so to sort of like deprogram the marketing side of things and just be like, that's it. Like, you don't need to do anything.
Right.
Like, that's all. We just did it because we wanted to.
Right. Well, I'm not trying to discredit the marketing teams, because we do have a dedicated marketing team or anything like we do have that too. Because that is such a crucial aspect. So if you're marketing mindset listening to this, I'm not trying to like sweep the rug from underneath you or anything like that, because your job is so crucial.
And to balance this out, not that you should not ever talk about your wins. I think it's if you're running a business and you're doing good things, you're doing good work, unfortunately, no one else is going to toot your horn. You have to toot your own horn.
Right.
My point is, I think there are businesses who are a bit disingenuous in that these efforts are really glorified marketing efforts rather than authentic efforts. Another good company I think of is a local company, Multicraft Contractors, large company out of Springdale. And they've grown. This has been years since then. They've grown substantially. Ownership's changed, what have you. But one thing that always stood out to me was an employee of theirs who got really sick, very ill. I think cancer or some kind of operation. I can't remember what it was. Something serious.
Right.
And had to be out from work. And the owner basically said, take as long as you need, and also we're going to pay for it.
Wow.
And just did it.
Yeah.
And then I think another company, Onyx Coffee. We know Onyx.
Oh, we love Onyx.
Another reason I love Onyx is because a friend of mine worked for Onyx years ago, was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and the owners of Onyx basically said, take as much time as you need. Your job's here when you come back. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny, like this dystopian nature of our world sometimes, where it seems like there should be more of this.
Right. Yeah.
Yet there's not.
Yeah.
Which is why I so appreciate the work you guys are doing.
Yeah.
And I love it, and I'm being long-winded here, but
that's okay.
I also love how you guys have such an action component to being a kingdom-minded company, which for our listeners, we have listeners from all over who aren't local to NWA. For our listeners, maybe you're not Christian or maybe you're not from Northwest Arkansas. In the Bible Belt, it's very common for there to be a company that is majorly, is that the right word? Majority Christian.
Yes.
And some of those companies are majority Christian, and that's just a fact of the demographic. And then there's other companies that are, their Christianity is part of their identity as a business. Point that I'm getting at is I was talking to a friend of mine who had worked for a few businesses where the Christianity was part of their foundation.
Yep.
And then he went to a non-Christian company where it wasn't part of the identity. And I was like, well, how's it going? How you liking it? And he said, dude, I'm being treated better here and seeing more fruit from just genuine, authentic work than I ever saw at those other companies.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think he would say something similar about if he was to work with you guys of like, hey, yeah, there's actual
there's real people here.
Yeah. This isn't like, this isn't a glorified like thing that goes on the wall. Like, you know, we worship God and everything we do, but like, it's actually an element of what we do.
It's a part
here.
of it. Yeah. And I'll take a moment to say this. It's not a requirement that you have to be a Christian, you have to be a believer in order to work for Schuber Mitchell. There's multiple people that, aren't necessarily Christian that come to work for us. That's not a requirement. And we're not going to test you on that. But what we are going to do is, what's John 3:16 say again? Yeah, you should know that one. That's easy. But anyway, what we do with these employees is, we really pour into them. Now, there is a pretty, strenuous interview process because we want to really, make sure who we're hiring.
Yeah, unrelated to their faith, right?
Unrelated to the faith. We want to make sure they are good, genuine
Quality people.
Hard workers, all that. You name it. Yep. For all the business owners out there, I'm sure you're like, yep, that's like pretty basic, Noah.
Yep.
But then after that, I mean, once they're employed, it is an element of pouring into them that really motivates them. And they're like, why are you pouring into me like this? And it's just because we believe that is what the scripture instructs us to do, is to love others, love thy neighbor like thyself. It is what Jesus came to the world to do, was to love on others.
Which also seems so simple.
Right.
And yet it's not always a norm.
Right.
And I feel like there's no greater testimony to your faith than to give like that and not expect anything in return.
Right. Yeah.
There to not be like,
Yeah. Where's my cut here?
Yeah. Yeah. Or, I mean, anyway, it's a great point you're making. No, we're out of time.
Oh no!
I told you it would go by quick.
You did. You warned me.
Tell me, people listening, what's the best way for people to either connect with you or follow more information on Schuber Mitchell Homes?
Yeah, so the easiest way is SchuberMitchell.com. It is loaded with information for you to see out there. SchuberMitchell.com is a great place to find it. You can also reach out to me directly at npaden@SchuberMitchell.com. Or I have my cell phone, 417-514-0495. I'd love to just have a conversation with you, get to know you.
Yeah. Well, Noah, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you, Blake. It was a pleasure being here. So
yeah. Noah Paden from Schuber Mitchell Homes on the podcast today. I'll put all of his information in the episode description for you to check out. Hey, if you're a first-time listener to the show, what the heck are you waiting on? Click that subscribe or follow button so you can keep getting good advice wherever you are. Don't forget, you can always support the podcast on our Patreon, patreon.com/goodadvice. Hey, that's today's good advice. We'll catch you later. See ya.